Hello and welcome back to the Bad Back Gardener. In today's video we're going to be planting some of our peppers here. I'm going to plant this bed here for you. I have about 4 more beds just like this probably to plant with peppers. So I'll do that later on, but I'm going to plant this bed for this video. Here I've already added compost to the soil and tilled it up. Then I put a layer of black plastic mulch over it. The peppers like heat, so that helps retain some of the heat and also suppresses some of the weeds if they would happen to come up in the beds here. But I've laid that cover of mulch plastic down, and then I've went ahead and I've cut holes in this bed, except for I got one more to cut yet. But I put the peppers are going to be 3 across here, and now normally in a 3-foot bed, like for tomatoes, I would only plant 1 plant here and 1 plant on the other side. I'd only go 2 wide on them. However, peppers, kind of like a city plant, they don't mind being crowded, at least as far as I've had experience when I've planted them. I've always had a real good crop of peppers, and I've always crowded them together. Tomato plants, I wouldn't. They're more like a country plant where they like their space around them. Pepper plants seem to do well when they're crowded together, so that's what I do. I put them 3 across and spread them out a little bit, but that way. But I get a lot of peppers in each bed, so that works out good. So we're ready to plant here. I will add when I'm doing it, I'll add some fertilizer, not a whole lot of fertilizer, because I want to produce peppers, not so much plant. And then I'll add some of my water crystals, and then also some drywall gypsum and lime. Those 2 things are for to prevent blossom and rot on the peppers as well. So we'll get started here with that, and we'll get some planting done. All right, so I've done some more legwork here. I've put some lime and ground up some of the drywall already in some of the holes here. Gonna finish cutting my last hole here in the plastic, and then I will create the holes here to plant in, and we'll finish with the gypsum. Alright, that'll do that for the gypsum. Add a little lime to it. Next to the end of that, we're going to add the water crystals. We'll add our Osmocote fertilizer. This is Osmocote fertilizer. Mix it up a little bit here. Okay, for the pepper plants, we are actually going to pretty much just plant them root in the ground. I don't trench them or bury them too much. They don't tend to root out as well from the stem as tomato plants do, but they do root out a little bit, and I'll show you that here if I can. Real close here, as you can see, There is some roots popping out the bottom, and so they will root out a little bit from the bottom. They're a little bit of a harder stem, so they don't always root out as strong, but they do. So if you bury them a little bit, it's not going to be a big deal. They will root out, but I usually don't trench these as much as what I would with tomatoes. So, all right, we'll get started planting here. Now I will take the peat pot that they're in, and I will break, when I get it into the ground, I'll squeeze a little bit and break it apart a little bit, just to let the roots come out a little bit better. I don't know that that's really an issue, but I do it anyways. And another thing, when you're planting these peat pots, you don't want to leave the peat pot stick out from underneath the ground, because it'll act like a wick when it's sticking out above, and it'll pull the water out of the soil up to where it's in the air, and that's just kind of like, it wicks it out of the ground and dries out your plant a lot faster. So make sure you're burying the whole peat pot when you're doing this. I actually do on a few of these, although I don't really prefer it this way. I prefer them to flower and produce peppers after I have them in the ground, but inside they were already producing long peppers, so that'll speed the process up, but it tends to slow down I think it slows down the production later on. It delays a little bit the production once they do get outside. So. Okay, that's all the peppers are planted here. I'm going to give them a good watering here. I'm going to put some hoops over them. Cover them with row cover. I want to get them, one, to hold the heat in. Two, it helps them not to bake in the sun. Gets used to being outside a little bit more. And that'll ease them into, I'll leave the cover on probably for a week or two. Then I can remove the cover and ease them into summer here. So that'll be more like a greenhouse effect for them. So that's what I'll do. I'll get the water and water them, and we'll do the hoops. That's the other thing the black plastic will do, is kind of direct your water down to the plant where it needs to be instead of spreading it all around. It'll find its way to the holes instead of going through the plastic as easy. I did water these in the tray before I planted them. They were a little bit dry, and I usually try and have that water them real good so they're going into the ground, they're not dry, because when you water them this way, sometimes if you have a dry root system already, it kind of just wicks around the dry roots and then never really soaks into the roots as good. So I'm going to have to fill up again here. Okay, finished watering them all real good here. Now we'll get to putting our hoops over here so I can get some row cover over top of these. I usually try and get the thicker hoops made out of CPVC on the ends because the clips tend to stick to these better than they do the thin metal hoops. Okay, once again, I'm using jumbo binder clips to hold my row cover on. They work really well. They're very secure, they're very tight, and the wind doesn't take them off. They stay on even in the strongest winds, so they work really good. Okay, that's going to do it for our video on planting our peppers. This is just one of 4 or 5 beds that I got to do here. I didn't even get the whole flat of peppers planted here, so I got a couple more flats after this even, so I'll probably use up all 4 beds. I have another one if I need to use it ready to go. So we all get them all planted here, and hopefully today or tomorrow. But that's going to do for our video. Thanks for watching. Catch up with me on Facebook. Send me your comments and pictures of what you got going on to the email you'll see at the end of this video. Or you can send me your comments and pictures on Facebook as well. Or send them to me on the YouTube channel too. So thanks for watching. If your back ain't hurting, you ain't working.